Hello and welcome to this video. In the first part of this video, we are going to talk a little bit about test automation. So for this, we are going to use the amazon.com, and for our test cases as well, we are going to use the amazon.com page, sourcelabs.com, and sometimes I might use dummy projects which I'll run locally on my machine. So this is the Amazon page, and we all know Amazon sell stuff. So as a user myself, when I want to buy an item, I might want to search for the product from this search box. I might want to check all the departments, or I might want to search for the product in a specific department, whether arts and crafts, baby, beauty and personal care, all the way to video games and women's fashion. I might want to add that item to my cart and delete from my cart. I might want to change the language of the page. I might want to sign in. I might want to view my orders, my browsing history, the products I have in my wish list. I might want to subscribe, for instance, to the Amazon Prime. So as a user, I can do a lot of stuff on this page. I might want gift cards for a loved one by clicking this gift cards to choose a gift card from this list, whether Easter or birthday or a thank you card or wedding, what have you. So I can basically click the gift cards and it takes me to the gift cards page. So, but assuming someone has to do this manually every day, always visiting the amazon.com website, searching for the product or searching for the product from a specific department, or changing the language, signing in, doing all kinds of stuff is going to be really repetitive and boring for the manual tester, because this is a huge e-commerce website, and if your company has something like this, it's going to be really difficult to test all the components, all the important components on the web app, for instance. So that is where test automation comes in. We take the pain to write the test cases once, and anytime we want to check if any of the functionalities is still working, we just run our test cases and the robot takes it from there. So even from here, we have different types of deliveries: e-gift card, mail, print at home. So there are a whole lot of combinations we can try, and test automation will do it for us in a few minutes. We take the pain to write test cases to do all this if you want to check this Amazon gift cards or clothing, and even after checking it, opens a different page, I presume. Yeah, so all these have to be tested by Amazon, or at least they would have outsourced the testing of their web app to another company if they don't have, for instance, a QA team in their company, which I can guess they will have, or at least they should have. So they need to test all the individual components basically every day to check if everything is still working, because the software developers occasionally make changes to the website, and as testers we need to check if after the change effected by the developers, everything is still working as it should, nothing is broken. So that's why we do it every day, but it's going to be really boring and tedious for a manual tester to go through all these kinds of elements to check if, for instance, the clicking the Espanol link or radio button actually changes the the language of the website. So let me click. Yeah, so it changes. So the manual tester would have to go through all these links to click to see if they actually change. So if I click English and it doesn't change, then something is broken on the page. So I would have to create a ticket, a bug report for the software developers so that they can check the code. Maybe something little is broken. That when I click the English link, it doesn't change the language. Assuming it's on Espanol, and I click the English link, it should change. But if it doesn't change, then something is broken. So a manual tester has to go through all these lists, be clicking them one after the other. But we can take the pain to write the test cases only once. So we just repeat it any time of the day or any day of the week to run those test cases. So it's much easier. But for the first time, it's going to take a little more time to write the test cases because we have to make sure they are all passing before we actually run them daily. Because sometimes your test case can fail for a different reason, not because there was a change in the website, but it might fail because you got maybe when writing the test cases you made a mistake or something like that. So sometimes things may break, but it's because of the test case, not because the developers changed something on the website. So in during the course of this tutorial, you are going to further understand the importance of writing or doing test automation. So in the second part of this video, we are going to talk about web locators. And for the web locators, I would like to use a dummy project on my computer locally because there are a lot of stuff on this Amazon page. It will be a little cumbersome to view. So I have created a dummy project. There's a couple of components or elements on the page. So I can use that to explain what web locators are. Thank you. For the web locators, we are going to use this dummy page I have locally running on my machine. That's the register.html file on my machine. So from this page, we have one H2 tag, a paragraph tag, two input fields, and a button. So there is a way to let the robot framework interact with these elements. Those are called web locators. Web locators are just tools or strategies we use or we give the robot framework to use to interact with our elements on the page. So we can open our PyCharm. When we open our PyCharm, you can just hold your control key and click on the Selenium library. And when you scroll down, you see locating elements. And they have a few syntax for us. And we are going to just stick to a few of them. So we have the strategy. So we have the ID, the name, identifier, class, tag, XPath, CSS, and a few others. We are primarily going to be using the XPath and the CSS because some of these can be used with, for example, the XPath strategy itself. So we are primarily going to use the XPath and the CSS. So that's why they've given an example over here. You can have the XPath //div ID equal to example, which means we are selecting a div with the ID of example. And then from that same div, we can use the CSS selector, CSS div. And then this hash sign means we are selecting a div with the ID of example. So let me go back to the page. So now this is the dummy page, just simple elements. So now we want the robot framework to interact with this input text field. So if we want to view more details about the text field, we can just right click that element we want and go to inspect, and that opens the developer tools for you. So let me just expand this. So from here straight away it selects the element you want to interact with. So to further or to make it easier for us to interact with the elements on the page, I recommend you add the crow path to your extension. There's an extension called crow path. From here I've already added it, so you can just Google crow path extension for Chrome, click on it and then add. I already have it, so just you should see add to Chrome or something like that. So you can just add to Chrome so we can use it. So when you open your developer tools, just click on this two greater than signs, and the crow path extension should show. So then we select it. So this opens the crow path extension itself. So to identify an element in HTML, we have first and foremost, you need to know the element you want to select. So now we want to select the first name text field, which is this one. There are other elements before that, but let me just explain what these mean. So this is the input text field. If you want to type anything, either your name or your password or date of birth, you need to use the input text field. This is a text field with the type of text, meaning you can type text and numbers. If you have type number, you can only type number, and you can also supply date to it. So that will make it sort of a calendar. So you can also select the date. So this input field has a lot of attributes. Let's say for if I'm taking it into everyday context, let's say myself, I am a human and I have a name, I have a social security number, I have a passport number, I have gender, I have my career, I have a family. So all those things are attributes or properties of myself. So in the same way, this input field has properties. It has a type property or attribute, a class attribute, name attribute, ID attribute, placeholder attribute, and there can be more. So you can use any of these attributes to select the input field or the element we want. Ideally, the ID is the most unique of all the attributes, since ID is usually unique to one person or one item, in this case one element. If you have multiple elements with the same ID, then it usually selects only the first element that matches or that has that ID. For example, first name. So let's look at what the documentation or the function definition in the PyCharm says. So let's use as I said, there are a few strategies. So I'll primarily be using the XPath and the CSS. You can try the rest yourself. So even though this ID is also a strategy, it also can be used in this format. So I'll now copy. So let's use this this strategy, the XPath strategy. So div, let me select this one. So this is from the Selenium itself. So you can just hold the control key and click the Selenium or any other function definition you want. If it's the log, you can just hold the control and click the log, and it's going to give you the definition, like how the log keyword was implemented. For now, we are sticking to the Selenium library. So yes, so that's where we can find the examples of the strategies to use. So I'm going to use this XPath1. So let's go back to the register page and paste what we have. As it says, type selector and press enter. So I have pasted it. There's no need to bring the XPath. You can just start. For the crow path, all we need is the forward slashes and the element and the strategy you want to use. So let's click enter and see what happens. It says 0 element matching, meaning we do not have a div with the ID of example. Even though there are divs on the page, we do not have any element or any div with the ID of example. So let's check. Now we have an ID on the page, first name. So let's try first name and see what happens. So we type first dash name, enter. We are still getting 0 element matching. Even though we have an ID on the page with first name, it's saying 0 element because that ID belongs to only the input. There's no div with the ID first name. So all we have to now do is just remove the div and type input and press enter. Then voila, we are seeing 1 element matching, which means there's 1 element on the page that has an ID of first name. So that is one of the strategies we are going to use. So this is the syntax. When you are typing it in CrowPath, 2 forward slashes, the name of the element, a square bracket, and the @ sign, and then the ID. This @ sign tells CrowPath or tell the robot framework that we are targeting an attribute. So if it is type, we can just use type text. If you can use @type and then put the type text in it, or if it is class, you can use the @class name, blah blah blah. So the syntax, once again, you have the 2 forward slashes, the input, the block brackets, the @ sign, the name of the attribute equal to sign, and then the value you are looking for. So this matches with the first name input box. So let's check the last name. And if any element is selected, you see the green dotted lines around that element. So let's check the last name as well. Yes, so 1 element matching as well, which means there's an element on a page that has the ID of last name. So this is how we use the web locators to interact with the elements on the page, and this is how the robot framework is also going to interact with the elements on the page. Let me quickly just change this to, let's say, type, and as we can see, we have type text, so we need to use type equal to text. If I use type equal to last name, 0 matching because there's no type equal to last name on the page. So all we have to do is change this and then type text, and then straight away it says 2 elements matching because we have 2 input fields on the page that has the type attribute of text. So which means both of them match the search criteria. So that's how we basically use this XPath strategy to locate the elements on the page. So in the next video, we are going to talk more about the web locators and how we can actually write keywords so the robot framework can interact with the elements on the page. Thank you and see you there.